Welcome back to part 2 of our tutorial where we are creating ourselves a little lesson about the French language. In the first part of the tutorial we made this animation where we had a ball bouncing around the page and the words French lesson appear on the screen. When we press the enter button we want it to take us to this page which we're going to create in this video. Basically we click on these buttons and we can hear French and English people saying certain phrases from the two languages. Alrighty, so we'll pop back over to Flash where we have got half of our animation created. So we got the splash screen scene. Okay, and what we're working on today is the tutorial scene. Alright, so if we have a look at the example, what we need first of all is the writing and the picture set out. So across the top we're going to have Speaking French 101 and then click on the buttons to hear the sounds written below that. So let's start with that. We've already got an actions layer in, so I might just lock that for the time being. We're not going to need that again. And we're going to add another layer now. We'll just call it text. With my text tool selected, I'll stick with Roboto as my font. I might just make it a little bit skinnier. I might go back to medium. Choose black text. You can choose whatever font you want as long as it's easy to read. And we're going to write Speaking French 101. Is that what it's called? Yep, Speaking French 101. I'll just stretch that box out and move it into position using my black arrow. Okay, it's looking pretty good. If you want to get this directly in the center of the page, I think you can use your align panel and align it to the stage and just click on the align horizontal center button there and that will stick it smack bang in the center of your page. So after we write that in, we grab the text tool again. We'll change the color to orange this time. I'm going to go back to regular for the font and we need to click on the buttons to hear the sounds. So click on the buttons to hear the sounds. If you need to resize the box, go ahead and do that now. You also want to make your font a fair bit smaller. Okay, so still got to resize this a bit. I'm going to make that font even smaller. That looks good enough. Alright, so I might just even center that in the middle that way. Speaking French, I know that looks good. I might just change these back to static text boxes. I think that's why I'm having issues. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Alright, so we've got our heading looking good. Now we need to get the coloured writing in, so I'm going to start with English hello and French bonjour. So we'll grab our text tool, change our colour to a green. Size, I'll just drop it to about 20 to start with and we'll go from there. Choose regular font again. So it says English hello and then in another text box we're going to have French bonjour. Alright, so we're going to get these lined up one after the other. Probably put them about there. Okay, the next ones we got English, how are you? French, comment allez-vous? So we'll grab the blue text for this one. English, how are you? And in another text box we got French, comment allez-vous? I think I spelled that right. Yep. Get these lined up perfectly. Use your guides to line these up perfectly with one another so you've got that bit of a margin running down the left hand side there. They're going to look a lot neater if they're lined up with each other. And the final ones, we've got the goodbyes, I think. English goodbye and French au revoir. So we'll change our colour to red. Start with English, whoops, need to spell this right, goodbye. And then in another text box, French au revoir. Okay, and we'll get those into position. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to lock that into position now. On another new layer, I'm just going to write image. We have a picture of France that we can bring in here, so I'm going to go File and Import, and just import to stage. And I've just got to find the right folder, my French lesson folder. We've got the Eiffel Tower. It comes out pretty big. You can change the size of that simply by grabbing your free transform tool, holding shift, bringing it down to an appropriate size that's going to look good on the right hand side of the page. Remember, we've still got buttons to put in, so you don't want to make that whoops, I'm getting some notifications on my phone. There you go, that looks pretty good there. Alright, so I'm going to lock that layer too and put in one last layer, which is called buttons. If we go back and look at the example, we've just got these little play buttons that we need to bring in. Now we can't copy and paste these in. That's the first rule you need to know about using these buttons that play different sounds. If we were to copy and paste these buttons in, they'd all play the same sound. Okay, what we want these buttons to do is to play 6 different sounds, so we need 6 different buttons. They just look exactly the same. Alrighty, so let's find our buttons library again. Mine's over here. And I'm going to just search in a little search box here. I'll just search for play. Hopefully that brings up all the different play buttons. And we need to go through these play buttons and try and find ourselves a good looking play button to use. Plenty here to pick from. Here we go, these little ones that we used in the example, so I might use them again. So on my buttons layer, I'm just going to drag out one button. Okay. Now that button there, I'm going to go up and go to my library here. And I can look through these buttons here and I should be able to find the playback flat button and find the flat blue play button. I'm going to rename that to hello. So this button here now is the English hello button. Now to bring in a second button that's exactly the same as that, or looks exactly the same as that, we need to right click on hello and duplicate it. This time I'm going to call it bonjour, and it stays as a button. We'll click OK. So now I've got this bonjour button I'm going to bring out and just drag it onto the page and put it next to the word bonjour, making sure it lines up with the button above it. So now I've got our first 2 buttons in. I'm going to right click on either one of those buttons and duplicate it again. This time I'm going to call it how are you, and you can easily drag that button out next to the English how are you text. We can right click and duplicate it again. This time we comment allez-vous, and we'll drag that button out. So hopefully you're starting to get an idea of what's happening now. So we've got 2 to go, so we'll just duplicate these 2 more times. The second last one is called goodbye. Click OK and drag the goodbye button onto the page. And we'll duplicate that one last time. And this last one's called au revoir. And we'll drag the au revoir button out, drop it into position on the page. So it's going to be looking something like this. I'm just going to nudge these around using my arrow keys to get them looking good. Alright, so the last thing we need to do here is add some sound to each of these buttons. So when we push down on the play button, we want to hear a sound getting played. So the first thing we need to do is bring those sounds into our library over here. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize that button folder there so we can see these sounds a bit better in a minute. I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to choose Import. Oops, and Import to Library this time. We want to bring the sounds into our library. Now in our French lesson folder we've got 6 sounds to bring in. Okay, we've got 3 English sounds and 3 French sounds. So just highlight those 6 sounds in total and click Open. And you'll see that those sounds appear in your library over here. Okay, first sound we want to work with is the English hello button. So just click once on that English hello button. Once you've got it selected, double click on it and you'll notice that your timeline down the bottom has changed. It's changing to all the different states that a button can have in Flash. What we want to work with is this down state. That means when we push down on the button, we want to play a sound. So what I'm going to do is make a new layer and just type the word sound. And on this down state, you'll have to actually click in the little square on the sound layer underneath down and press F6 to put a keyframe in. While you're still selected there, go and grab your English hello sound file and simply drag it and drop it onto the page anywhere. And you'll notice this orange line appears through your timeline. That is actually this sound wave appearing. So that's saying when we push down on the button, it's going to play the English hello sound. You can push the back button up the top to take you back, and that button's all programmed to work now. So let's do the same for the other buttons. On the French bonjour button, double click on it, find the French bonjour sound. We're going to be using that in a second. Make a new layer, call it sound. Press F6 on the down state. Okay, and then grab your French bonjour sound and just drag it and drop it somewhere on the page. And hopefully that orange line, which is the sound wave file, appears through your timeline. Press the back button. Those two buttons are done. Let's go down and do English how are you. So double click on that button, make a new layer and call it sound. On the down state, press F6, and we're looking for the English how are you sound file. There it is. Drag it, drop it onto your page. There's our orange sound file. Press the back button. It's all done. Double clicking on comment allez-vous now, we'll make a new layer called sound. Press F6 on the down state, find the French comment allez-vous sound file, drop it onto your page. There's our orange line. Press the back button. We're all good. 2 to go. For the English goodbye button, grab the English goodbye sound file. Oops, we'll make a new layer first. Sorry. Call it sound. On the down state, press F6 and drag the English goodbye sound onto your page. You can see the sound file appearing. Go back. Last one now, the au revoir button. Make yourself a new layer, call it sound. Press F6 on the down state. Find the French au revoir sound file, drop it onto your page. There's that little orange sound wave. Press the back button and you're done. Okay, so that has our buttons all programmed to play a sound. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is press Control Enter and test this animation out. Let's see if we've got it working. I'm going to turn my volume up so you'll be able to hear this. So animation on scene 1 works fine. French lesson, a little bit slow. When we press Enter, we come into the tutorial itself. Now I'll just take my headset off so you can hear this. We'll put the microphone near the speakers. Let's see how we go.
Hello. Bonjour. How are you? Comment allez-vous? Goodbye. Au revoir.
Alrighty. So that sounds like everything is working just fine. So we've got a working French lesson. Make sure you go to your file menu and choose Save As, and you save it wherever you need to save it. Just give it the name French Lesson. Okay. Once you have saved it, good idea to publish it again, so just press Control Enter to publish it as a SWIFT file, and you can close that straight away. Okay, so that's all.